Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their edtech ideas into profitable businesses. Good morning, Dr. Arpita. Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneur Show. Thanks so much for taking time out for this.
Oh, great. A very good morning, Jagan. Actually, I'm really happy, in fact, today that I'm recording podcast for the beneficiaries, and that is I'm fine. Yeah.
Great. It's my pleasure. So, Dr. Arpita, I had a quick look at some of the links that I could find online. I mean,
Uh-huh.
before every podcast, I try and learn a little bit about the guest, not so much as to remove the intrigue for myself, but just enough to at least So, I see that you are a leadership coach, but from the looks of it, it doesn't look like that's what you set out to be. So, my first
Oh,
question is about how did you get into leadership coaching? Is that what you always planned or aspired to be? Or, what really kind of, tilted your path towards that?
well, a good question. Not to be asked question, maybe people will get confused, but doesn't matter. I will share my story. So basically, leadership coach, I never planned, to be very honest. I haven't planned that I would be a leadership coach one day. That was not my goal at all. But being in medical household, my mom has insisted me in those days. I'm a Gen X woman, so insisted me to be in medical field. So she chose dentistry for me. Those days you can't say no to parents, and I have practiced dentistry for close to a decade in India and in USA. Post which I found, as I was getting ready for my licenses in Florida, I found that my owner said, "Why don't you manage my set of clinics? You seem to have good amount of managing skills." I said, "Okay, fine, why not?" And I was surprised to see that I was doing fantastically well. Then he suggested, "You should do masters in business." I said, "Wow, that's good." Anyway, the nature said I have to be back to India. So I came back to India with my kids, completed my master's in business administration, started taking up managerial roles for various organizations. And then I realized the role required me to be a coach slash trainer, kind of combination, to manage multiple locations and multiple people. That is when I started becoming a trainer, training them on various things, then finished psychology because I need to manage huge number of people. So the human psychology is just very amazing. I love it. And so I finished double masters in psychology. And then now I'm practicing as a leadership coach. That's what my journey is.
Wow. Okay. Someone from dentistry to this is quite a thing. But how easy or difficult was it to transition in terms of decision making? Is it a little bit of no interest for dentistry and interest to explore other things? Did that help you? And of course, you told how your ex boss made an influence by saying that you could do all that. But
Yeah.
so I see that you didn't miss doing dentistry.
Nah, nah, nah. So let me put it this way. When I was a little child, you'll have all these things now. So I used to play a lot like a teacher. And I did tell my mom I want to become a teacher. But anyway, that's the story. But the thing is, it's not easy. Uh, and at the same time, it was not hard for me. The reason why, because it was my passion calling. And whenever you know a person who is completely passionate about a certain goal and work towards it, I don't think they feel it hard. So I didn't feel it hard shifting from practicing dentistry in a decade and the complete shift towards management and psychology and coach was a very hard journey in terms of the biggest difficulty everybody faces with the financial hit, because I had to start again back from square one.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was the big thing, and I had the spine through. I need to applaud myself, though the family would be there to support, not support. Those are secondary, but it was my vision, or you can call it as like madness towards what I want to do with people. Look at the changes that I can bring in people, move people towards one direction. So that was my madness, and so it was hard in terms of that. That is the work, and but yeah, the society also, if you see Jagan, the moment they see, oh really, they look at you differently, specifically in this country. I didn't
Yeah.
find such difficulty in abroad in Western countries. But when I see in this country, they would say, "Oh, you are weird," from medical industry to something that you're doing. Was the greatest friction that I faced in social networks, but that didn't stop me at all, because that gave me more and more strength. That why not? At any point of time, you can make any decision that you would want to, and you can achieve your dreams. I don't think nothing should stop you at any age. In fact, my age was also not young when I made this decision. So I don't think things should stop you. Yeah, that was it.
Great stuff. You said, the first person to kind of identify your managerial skills was
Uh-huh.
your boss when you
Yes.
were, doing the dentistry thing in the US. What do you think? What are the few qualities, if you can describe, that kind of stood out for him as a manager that he felt you need to do your masters in business?
Good. No, that question should have been for him. But anyway, I did ask him that question. See, I was a dark person in a white country. Okay.
Right.
So, and then they don't have any discrimination. They're very beautiful people, but then you would see that there is a difference, right? So then when I started managing the clinics and I started speaking to the clients per se, they were getting connected to what I speak. It was of a value to them. And as that started increasing more, then my outcome as a manager, I had like 10 things to do. And it was becoming very easy. And I was doing tenfold more, not double, tenfold more of the gains that the organization was getting. And then in terms of financial gains also, it was very clear on paper. So that is when my boss started observing that I have people skills mainly, and that I can influence people more than persuasion. He saw influencing skills that was fantastic in me. I don't know when I speak at that time. Now I know what did play a role, because after psychology, I know now that okay, these are the headings that played a role for me. But probably I had that within me, to be a people's person, and that I connect to people well. So these are the things that had made him suggest.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it, Dr. Arpita. You said that, from there you moved back to India for natural reasons, and then you took up a managerial role here, which made you kind of, train people and be present in different places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, you now are a lead, you not only train, but then you're a coach.
Yes.
What was the transition from being a manager or being in the training to becoming a leadership coach like? How you and what is the difference you think is between training and to coach people?
Interesting. So, if you see, I'm glad I took that direction, because I've been there on the core end where you're literally with people managing. So, I had teams of 150. Okay, so I literally managing them, going through the crux of the things, facing issues. So, I was there, and it had a little bit role of training, and then did a lot of training after I left my job for good, and made a decision to become a trainer. And then I started seeing the world in terms of imparting skills. So training is all about communication skills, any skill, delegation skills. So it's imparting certain parts of the skills. But then when I started working with organizations, the organizations were saying, Arpita, fine, we are doing a tiny little bit here and there, but then can't we do holistically? That is when also I completed my organizational psychology, and then I said, yeah, we can. And that's when I started exploring being a coach, learned to be a coach, and of course certified as a coach. And then I said, okay, fine, so let's work holistically. So not only importing tiny bits of training, but also be a coach where you are enabling these people, the managers who manage many people, human workforce. So enabling them and helping them manage their own teams rather than just imparting tiny bits. So there are many interventions that I do apart from coaching. So there are a lot of interventions that I do, like assessment is one intervention, training is one intervention. So there are many pieces of it. So I started doing it holistic approach, and that is when I started people, organizations started hiring me for a long term journeys with them. So I started with 6 months journey, 8 months journey, where we work with the entire. So we start with the middle management, then a little bit of senior management, and then down the line. So we fix the whole chain. That's what.
Got it, Dr. Arpita. Wow. Yesterday I was talking to one of the intercultural coach or, trainers, who brought in this point about workshop is just a beginning point,
Yes.
where you do for 4 days or 6 days. But the corporates haven't gotten to a stage, where they want to include this as a holistic process. And, here I am talking to you today about 6 months, 8 months, which is very interesting. Has this always been like this in the corporate field, where they have kind of received people who coach and, work with them? Or is this a recent shift that you've seen, Dr. Arpita?
No, no, no. It has been there. So they have internal teams also who do that. So there's a complete learning and development departments who do that. I mean, at least if I speak of the bigger corporates, multinational companies. But the other organizations who are single owned, proprietary based partnership organization, like for now, example, I'm working with growth stage entrepreneurs. Now, growth stage entrepreneurs or any entrepreneurs for that matter,
Right,
for the biggest issue is the financial part of it.
right,
They will be the seed stage anyway. They are struggling hard to prove themselves. But moment they come to growth stage, where they are at least, diversifying in their products or services or locations, that is when they grew from this tiny team to a team where now they have to manage multiple teams. It is becoming very tough for them. So that is where I proposed journeys of 3 to 6 months, and I've started with them. Financials is an issue. So you ask me whether they know or is it a recent shift? No, they know. It's just the amount of it costs. So it comes with a cost, right? Because of the timeline and also because of the amount of work that is done
right,
to enable these people. Upskilling the competencies. So these skills are called as competencies. So
right.
upskilling these competencies is really hard. You have to literally make a person change. For example, if you are getting up every day from right side of the bed and I tell you tomorrow onwards you should do get up from left side of the bed, you will reject first of all because it's
Right.
uncomfortable. So it will take time. It's a behavioral change that comes during coaching a lot. So that behavioral change will take time, and therefore, people investing on it, companies investing on attrition or high turnover roles will not happen. So it happens only middle management and above. Yeah, that is an
Got it, Dr.
exact challenge. Yeah.
Got it. You are right now, you help people with leading. What is leadership according to you? And one more follow up question. When companies have already chosen people who they think can be leaders, why do they think they need external help like a
Haha.
coach?
So you're getting all the beans to be spilled from me today, Jagan. Okay, not an issue. So let me tell you a small definition, kind of a thing, or for people to understand.
Sure.
Who is a leader? Now, leader is a person who has the power to influence. Okay,
Right.
and they guide the team towards common goals. Now that's what you are telling, that the organizations promote them and tell these people are leaders, right?
Right.
Leadership is a bit different. Now, leadership is all about showing that taking an initiative, making decisions, inspiring others to get the work done towards a common vision, and helping them create a culture of empowering them to contribute the best. So leader is like I'm standing on a ship and I'm trying to I have been given a role to take the ship forward. That is a leader. But leadership is I'm actually maneuvering the ship and all the things that is required to take the whole ship forward. So that is the difference.
Got it. And as a coach, how easy or difficult it is for you to, talk to guys who've been promoted? Are they receptive, or have they, has there been resistances for you?
So usually, if you tell me, Jagan, if we tell that you have one problem, okay. Now, if I were to fix your problem, you will have to do this one, two, three. In fact, you will become capable of fixing your own problems. Then they are very receptive. See, any managerial role for now for any organization, whether it's entrepreneur, partnership, corporate, they deal with people's problems, right? Other than the technical issues that they go through, the people's problems is very hard because it's a human related, human psychology, human mindset, human attitude related. And if you see, the generations have changed, Gen X to millennials, now Gen Z is coming in with various different, they have been born in disruption itself, right? So to deal with these people is hard. So they are definitely receptive to understand themselves, be self-aware, and understand where the tweaking need to be done. And so therefore, their upskilling, they are very receptive. For me, I have seen everybody who's been receptive for now because we are
Wow,
solving their problem.
yeah, no, you just brought in a very interesting point, because one of the things when you become a coach, when you help people, I think you need to understand something. And when you're coaching managers who deal with Gen Zs, that's a whole other game. So,
Yes, it
how
is.
much updation or updating you do to get in touch with, people's lives today, like the 20-year-olds today, as you call them, Gen Zs? Uh, you know, is there a is there a change in cultural attitude, languages? But of course, the psychology at the core would be the same. But I think probably there are other changes on a high level that you need to bring in.
So, to answer this question, instead of how much, so there is no weighing how much. Rather, I'll tell you that there is a need of growth mindset. Okay. So, the moment we have imbibe the growth mindset, that means my acceptance power is increased, mostly acceptance. Because if you see in any organization, there are still people with Gen X, okay, they're born differently, their conditioning is different, their belief systems are different. So if anybody comes in shorts and t-shirt and listening to music all the time, it is read differently. But actually, that particular resource, who is a Gen Z, is doing a lot of work. Doesn't seem by the way they behave or they dress up, but it is actually different. So the acceptance, understanding over there, on their methodology, their because their lens to see the world is different. So recently, I've bumped into a survey done by Deloitte. For 20 countries, they have done a research where they say about what are the importance that the millennials and Gen Zs are right in main workforce right now, middle management and down the line. So, what are their priorities? Having a family has become less priority, marriage, kids. The more priority is towards, social giving, towards buying their own houses, living in their own spaces, by traveling a lot. So, this is the priority right now for them. So, if in case I'm trying to, as a manager, motivation is one of the things I have to do to my team. So if I don't understand the Gen Z or the millennials, and I'm saying, hey, you know what, you'll get this much salary, this much rewards, this much perks, they would be like, yeah, yeah, I know, we would definitely get that because they are working for it. They want to become, earn money however fast I can. This is not me. This is the survey which is saying, and
Right,
this is
right,
what
right.
we see.
Got
So
it.
rather than we need to identify what is their motivation part.
Right.
Now, how do I, tickle that thought and then make them listen and understand. So the listening skills is going way down as we are going, and attention spans are going down way down. So that's how it makes a difference, more than how much it is. What? Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Got it. I think very straight. I mean, like very simply put, you just have to identify what are the motivations. What are they motivated about? You just don't stick whatever drives you doesn't drive everybody.
Correct.
So
Exactly.
as a manager, it is your job is to find out what drives each one of them in your team, and probably, as you said, tickle that part of them so that it motivates them. Now, coming back to business leaders or managers, what are the things that they face in their own organization in their growth, apart from managing teams? What are the other requirements that they face in their organization for them to grow, and how do you play a role in that?
Okay, so this is a good question, but it requires a deeper answer. So the thing is, when a managerial roles want to grow, it starts from within. Honestly, so it should start from within rather than what I should do for the people outside, because within is again my time and my prioritization, most importantly my biological clock, which is my energy management. Because whole day we are doing the work, the tasks, one after the other, one after the other. And is my energy same from the morning to the night where I'm finishing the last task? It's not. Generally it is not. Biological clock does not. So how am I hacking it? Because everything is a priority. There is no that this is not priority. So everything is happening at a time and it's a priority, right? So it starts from within. I need to hack my biological clock to the task and the schedules that I have, so that I can manage myself, my energy, my time. So it's within. And then comes the whole big part of it, and that is the crux. And the crux is the complete team management and team performance. Now, when we come to team management, team performance, there are various skills that they require, so for, they conduct meetings and the outcomes of the meetings, then they delegate, they have to influence certain people who are low or non-productive and understand and give them a feedback, that to constructive feedback on what can be done, derive the timelines, attach a KPI to their role, and then conflicts happen. So how do I manage the conflicts within the team? Then accountability and ownership. So how do I instill an accountability and ownership? Then there is an interpersonal communication happening a lot, and nowadays more so if you see work from home or flexible work conditions, they are not actually in person in office. So how do you have that interpersonal communication happening in virtual world, the basic communication skills of connecting to people? Then it also comes in the beginning part, and that is the interviewing part. Then new workforce sensitization. How do I stand out as a leader? How people read me on social media? That also plays a role. How am I branding myself? So all these, so there's so much of that that needs to be upskilled, and they are ready to go through this. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, no wonder it is a 6 to 8 month process, like you had mentioned earlier. Has it ever been in your field, Dr. Arpita, that, where companies have consulted with you before promoting their people? Have they made you assess, whether can they be leaders or not? Because you definitely seem to, if you can train people, you can also see, and I'm sure you face difficulties where some people just cannot be coached.
um, right. It's not that some people, yeah. So I'll put it this way: the mindset to go through the journey is the preparation that one has to go through. Right,
Right,
because
right,
imagine you already are bumped up with lot of work. On top of it, your coach is asking so much of work. Not only time, also work is being given to them to
right.
implement and test. So the mindset and preparation has to happen. So that will take time for them. For some people are immediately ready. Some people will take time, and then they do it anyway, right? Because that's the only solution going forward. Now, the thing you asked me was on how do one get into. So basically, the mindset only, right? That they identify that I have to put so much of time from myself, and then so not only sharpening my axe, which is very important, and then also to go forward. Have I answered you?
No,
Or do I need to touch on anything? I feel I missed out some point.
no.
No?
I my sorry for adding a lot of questions. My first
Yeah,
question
yeah,
was:
yeah.
have organizations ever come
Yes.
to you or looked out, asked you to assess their candidates whether they would fit the leadership role or something?
Okay, to promote. So the thing is, let me put it this way. Me, anyway, I'm a small coach, right? Who's doing valuable work in the world. But there are multiple people like me, and there are multiple organizations who do assessments. So there are some organizations who believe in traditional and doesn't matter lengthy process, but they go through that. Okay.
Right.
So what they do is they do something called as assessment development center, so that there is a huge set of assessment that happens for the leaders to see the readiness of them. So this is a various series of tests that happen in various different methods, and takes time to do it, time, resources, money, everything. And then they would say that yes, these people is the areas of strength is this, and areas of improvement is this, and their readiness to go take to the next role is this, right? So that reports will be given. Yes, some organizations definitely do it to go to that length, the best ideal way. Some organizations do to cut short the time and money and all. They do different combinations of this to check the readiness of the leader and identify the areas of improvement that is required for them to be promoted. Performance reviews anyway will tell on that
Right.
areas of improvement. But yeah, so this is done. Generally, it is done in many organizations.
Got it, Dr. Arpita. Just one question about, when you were talking about what are the things that the, people who are coached need to kind of, work on. One of the things that you said was, given that today they're both working from home and they're working from offices,
Yes.
hybrid and stuff like that,
Yes.
interpersonal connection is something that they need to, that's an area of
Yeah.
concern. When you're in person, right, there is so much that you don't have to use words for. Your body language is there. So communication takes care of itself in a certain way, just by small gestures. When they have to communicate via text where there is no emotion and stuff like that, what is your general advice for managers, to keep the team not just like robots, and how to keep the human connection going?
The good thing is coaches don't advise. Okay, this
Right.
that is a mentor who does, not coach. So I can't advise, but I'll tell you
Sure,
some kind
sure.
of an answer. See, that's the very reason why, if you see, most of the organizations are going back to office. There are some
Right.
organizations who have made it mandatory 3 days, mandatory 4 days, and there some are full fledged, because during covid we managed what we managed. Right now there is no need to manage. You can come back to a lot many things, and that's why most of them are coming back. But there are still few organizations who are believers of virtual work or hybrid work. Let us put it
Right.
that way. So what happens is that in hybrid environment, the human connection is lost in being physical, but otherwise you can still establish the connection, right? Otherwise 2 years, how did we do a productive work per se? But
Right.
it's just that just not being on camera, just being on chat, definitely emotions, meaning if you type it out the emotions would come, that is different. Emotions are not required at work basically. But I mean, I might sound it differently. Emotions not required at work, meaning your facial expressions, body language is actually not seen because you're cut off, and you can't feel because you're not in person. So, but then the work is happening because the task is described, the task is being shared, and they work towards the task, and they come on the meetings on Skype or whatever Teams platform, they discuss and they get the work going, rolling out, right? So, in this context, there are many methods which the managers are choosing to have team huddles once a week, virtually itself, being creative in that space, having their cameras on, taking the time a little bit off of the work, and then, socializing so that the connections develop. Because new joinees also joined virtually. They didn't have, earlier at least all the teammates were there, now they know each other, right?
Right. Right.
So that human connection is very important to establish even in a hybrid workplace. So the managers are getting creative there also. And then they even send across the pizzas or whatever, they all eat together. So those things are happening to be per se. But yes, this would be an issue if there is no human connection. If you can create that virtually, and the hybrid workforce definitely is working towards productivity, and that's good enough, right? So physical
Got it.
presence or not, it's the companies or it's the decisions that the organizations make, uh, uh, depending upon the type of work, magnum of work, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Got it, Dr. Arpita. Yeah, I mean, I think there are three important things that you said. The first one you started off was nothing can replace the physical presence. So hybrid is back. That's exactly why they come and meet. And one of the important things that you said, which is very basic, but which can do a huge role, is keep the video on. That itself will solve for half the issues. I'll probably, before I conclude the podcast, I just have a couple more questions. As a, business owner, for people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, what are the three things that have always worked for you in client acquisition as a coach?
Okay, client acquisition. What I know is that I have put my heart and soul into my work. I give 100%, and give show the results basically. So work hard towards showing results. Just that, oh, I've put lot of work and time, and what's the point if you haven't shown any result? So I'm a result or solution oriented person. So I show results. Now that has spoken a lot, and that's how referrals will come. Right. And other than that, people I see that, don't see LinkedIn as a beautiful platform to be networking, to understand what's happening in the world, to be in the space where you discuss a lot on any simple thing as a coach. We put out articles. I put out articles, and then do audio events in LinkedIn, just to give away lot of giveaways. As a coach, I've done even today's podcast. Right, the
Right.
intent is to see if it is beneficial for anybody on any small part that we spoke about. So things like that I have been doing, very with very honest heart. So that, of course, law of attraction will work for it. If I've made sense, then people will do connect. Now that's one. Apart from that, in my network, I did had few organizations whom I knew from long through various other social networking places. So I'm a Rotarian, and active Rotarian from past 14 years. So through that network, organizations I've approached, and because I proved a lot in being a Rotary leader also over there. I've been president, I've been an assistant governor. So when I spoke to them, this is what I can do, and then organizations signed me up as their leadership coach for their organization. I was playing a role for a year. Now there is one organization, still it's going on 2 years, and I'm still working with them. So this is how I grew. So it's an organic way of growing. Yeah, unlike anything else that
Got
I
it.
do. I don't do no other digital stuff, marketing and all.
Got it. Got it. Got it, Dr. Arpita. Just one final question, maybe, before we conclude. To the aspiring coaches, who are interested, what would you, share with them? What do they need to do? Let's say if there is somebody who's just finished a certification and they think that, okay, I'll just get a few clients or, whatever it is. Where do they need to start if they're looking for a project to start from? Do they need to volunteer to help people? What are some of the things that you would advise them to
Again, advice.
do? Or
No.
share, yeah.
Okay. So generally I feel, if you have, see, certifications are one thing, Jagan, to be honest, certification is important, very important.
Right.
But also, apart from certification, what else is very important too. So I got certified, exams done, very good. I must have put an effort and tested and everything. But then the concepts of it, what is being learned, need to be applied in real life as a beginner coach. So I obviously think, in if you actually dig around in your or your parents or your uncles or your aunts, whatever small companies, start very small, because you have to test and apply your concepts also and your skills, whether it's working or not. Start very small, doesn't matter. Let's not think about financial gain in the beginning at all. Rather, put in work, and let the work speak for you. Okay, so
Right.
that is very important. Be true to yourself, and try test all of the things, and true to what you do. This itself is enough. I might be sounding a little different, but this is what has helped me out a lot, and I have seen that it does help. Not only me, I have seen it does help. I do definitely have a lot of people whom we help in various fields. Just be honest to yourself in what you're doing. Put in a very good effort and work. Let it go slowly. Doesn't matter. There is no rush to acquire a lot of clients at the same time, where you're overwhelmed with work and it becomes too hard to achieve results. Right? Go step by step, baby steps. Have your time. Doesn't matter even if you have wanting to become a coach, a long, later in age or in life journey. Doesn't matter. but then take those baby steps. Once you've established your pillars strong, that is when go, you might choose to promote or things like that, to speak out, to create reels or YouTubes, and speak up your work. So now that you have magnum of work, you can actually speak up, right, on what results you gave. Yeah.
Makes total sense. Simple but very effective. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I, hope to see you at some point in the future
Yes, we will.
for another episode. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
great day.
Have a
Yeah,
great.
before we leave, I just need to stop the recording.